Thank you for checking out Unlucky, a memoir. My name's Kat. Everyone has a story. This one just happens to be mine. So, I decided this week I'm going to unpack a little bit of what I shared last week. Get a little more into details of things. First, I'd like to start off reminding everybody that June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And be aware of the men in your life and what they're going through. And if you're a man going through something, don't feed into the stigma. Dial 988 if you're having a crisis. Ask for help. There's no shame, no judgment. Now, getting back into last week, I thought about it and I decided to get a little more in depth about the effect my mother leaving had on me. Even before she left, she wasn't one that would come to my baseball games or wrestling matches. It was an odd where her and my brother were more connected, where me and my father were more connected. So she decided that she was going to leave and start a new life. And that's fine. The way she left was abrupt. I was staying at my grandparents' house. My brother was out with friends for the night. And my dad was in Philadelphia at a conference. She decided she had people show up, help her pack up all the stuff out of the house. My brother came home to an empty house that night, and my dad found him in shambles with a note from my mom saying she was gone. Along with furniture and electronics and whatever else she took from that, she also took mine and my brother's bank accounts. So she had an exit plan. She employed, like I said, I was 10, 11 years old, I believe, around the time this happened. So it really had a dramatic effect on me. Even though for years prior, I always wondered why they didn't get divorced or why they were still together, because I just saw the fighting. But when it did happen, I went through a change of wanting my mom. And I chased after that relationship for a long time. I remember my brother had moved into my grandparents' house at some point. I took over his phone line in the house, and I remember asking her one time why she never calls. Her excuse was she didn't want to talk to my father. I said, "Mom, I have my own phone line." I would constantly reach out and try to have relationships with her, and this happened throughout my teenage years. And throughout that time of getting rejected again and again, and her not being able to be the mother I needed, I sunk deeper into my addiction. I drank more, smoked more, went to harder drugs. I remember a situation where I had met a girl, and this was somebody I was really cared for, and this is when I was a little older, and I thought we might get married. I wanted to introduce her to my mom. I remember going by her salon to introduce them, and she was cordial enough while we were there. But not long after I left, I remember receiving a phone call, and it was my mom telling me, "Don't you ever do that again. Don't you ever embarrass me like that again." And it was just showing up at her salon, because I didn't fit the mold of what she wanted out of me. So in my teen years, chasing after this relationship that just kept letting me down again and again, it's one of the childhood traumas that I never dealt with, because again, not beaten, not molested, so I played the comparison game. I always felt weird calling what happened to me trauma, because it wasn't as bad, or what I viewed as bad, as the next person's. I come to realize that it's not a comparison game. What happened to you is what happened to you, and what happened to me is what happened to me. And I got to realize that apparently it was a deep enough trauma to push me into wanting to cover up the pain from it. So regardless of what the comparison to your trauma is, this was enough for me. That trauma was enough to push me over into years of addiction, self-loathing, and self-destruction. And throughout the years into my 20s, I kept trying to have this relationship with her. And it kept failing. And for a long time, I blamed myself, figuring it was a lacking of something I was doing. Somehow I was letting down the relationship. I wasn't upholding. I felt there was something wrong with me. I still remember when I was about 20 years old or so. I remember my mom calling me and my brother and her telling us that she had something very important that she needed to talk to us both about in person. She came over to my grandparents' house and sat down with the two of us. And that's when she told us we had another brother, one whom she had put up for adoption before she met my father. Talk about a bombshell, right? Soon enough, we met that brother, and that's, I think, why she felt the need to disclose this to us, because he was coming to visit her, and she wanted to make sure we knew before anything like that happened. But let's fast forward a little bit. So now I have a full-blood brother and a half-brother, and we're all having some relationship with our mother, right? Pretty soon, one of my brothers stops talking to her altogether and doesn't want to have anything to do with her anymore. I thought, okay, well, that's a shame. I don't know why he did that. And then soon after, my other brother decided he no longer wanted to have a relationship with her. Still, I said this before, a problem I had throughout my life was putting trust and faith in the wrong people. So I kept continuing to try to have this relationship with my mother. When I see through evidence that my other brothers aren't able to have a relationship with her for similar reasons, I ended up having a son. And during the time when he was really little, I was working third shift for a warehouse, and I was working at a tattoo shop at the same time. So needless to say, I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. I started a relationship with my mother again because of my son, her grandson. I started going up to visit her on Mondays because I'd have off Monday mornings. Tattoo shop wasn't open that day, so I would go to her house, sleep on the couch while she could spend time with her grandson. And this went on for a while and seemed like we were having a really great relationship. And I remember one morning picking my son up, taking him up there. And when I got there, I remember my mom asking me, "Can you help me fix my computer?" I said, sure. We went to her office. I sat down and tried looking at her computer. While I was looking at her computer, she had my son. And I don't even remember what she said anymore. But she had made some sort of snide comment towards me in front of my son. And I didn't react. I pulled her aside. And I asked her, please, don't talk to me like that in front of my son again. Just, please. Well, about 10, 15 minutes later, she did the same thing. I I grabbed my son and said, "Come on, let's go." Packed him up, got him into the car, and left. And that was the last time I spent any time with my mother. I'd seen her a few times since at funerals and had been cordial. I still remember being at my grandfather's funeral. And I was cordial and welcomed her and said hello. But I ended up sitting between my grandmother and my stepmother because they were so much more important in my life than she ever was. So, get through that funeral. And then a few years later, my grandmother dies. End up at that funeral, and at this point, I had gotten married. So me and my wife were at my grandmother's funeral, and my mom showed up, and she sat behind us. And I found, after the funeral, I had found my wife in tears, and I didn't understand what happened. But she understood the relationship I had with my mother, as contentious as it was. Apparently my mother leaned in and said, "Take care of my son." And that was enough to set my wife off, because she knows, and the way my mother said it apparently didn't seem too sincere. So it just set my wife off. But that is when I completely decided to sever all ties with her, and I carried a resentment around for years for this woman, not realizing that resentment wasn't hurting her, because she has a way of getting past things and being the victim. The resentment was killing me. It was burning me up. It was costing me relationships. I still can look back at relationships I've been in throughout my life and understand that I've never had a really successful relationship, in parts because of the relationship I had with my mother. Trust issues, abandonment issues. I'd be in a relationship with somebody and I would blow it up and destroy it before they could leave me, without any evidence that they even thought about leaving me. But because I was so scared of being left and abandoned, I'd rather blow it up on my own terms. For years, I carried that around like a weight. Until recently, I finally got to a place in my life where, today I'm extremely happy with who I am. I know who I am. I know I'm a good person. I know I'm doing good things. But I got to a place where I had to understand that resentment was only hurting me. And I had to forgive her in my heart for myself. Forgiveness is not always for the other person. I needed to forgive her for not being able to be the mother that I needed. I had to understand it was never in her to be that person. She couldn't do it with me. She couldn't do it with either of my brothers. It just wasn't in her to be a mother. So I had to forgive her in my heart and understand that just because I forgave her does not mean I have to invite that trauma back into my life. And that was a very freeing moment once I finally understood and realized that. So I hope you got a little bit more understanding of that part of the story from last week. And I think for the next few weeks, I'm going to try to dissect parts of last week's story and dig a little deeper so you can get a better understanding of who I am, what I was, where I was, and why I did the things I did, and to understand better who I am today. I feel if I can introduce you to the mess, the message will mean a whole lot more. I'd like to thank you all for coming to my page and checking out my story. It does mean a lot to me that you tune in. I'd also like you to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things that will help feed the algorithm that is YouTube and maybe get this message to more people. I know it seems kind of serious and it's been a little bit of a sincere, story so far, but believe me, we're going to get to some ups along with the downs. And I'm here today to speak about it. So there's gratitude there. I made it through, right? So no matter how dark this gets, understand that I'm still here, still fighting. And that's it. Sometimes you need a pause, a break, and just to sit still and understand that things can always get worse, but that also means they can get better. And I'm truly blessed today with the things that are going on in my life. Like, my brain couldn't fathom 2 years ago where I'm at and what I'm capable of today. So with that, I'd like to thank you again. Come back next week.